I know that there are people in the world who think that relationships should always be hard and tough. Yeah, you should always be crying. Like, if you're not crying or if you're not fighting every Eke market day, if there is no violence, like if there is no crying or fighting or arguing every day, then that's not true love. Whatever it is that you're looking for in your spec, go and become it. Hi guys, welcome to another episode of Life Lessons with Law. My name is Loretta Gerard, and on this space we like to have open, honest, authentic, heart-to-heart conversations on everything pertaining to love, life, faith, and womanhood. So if this is your first time of watching this channel, thank you for joining me. And if you are a returning listener or subscriber, thank you so much. Look, a very big thank you to all 50 of you who have subscribed to this channel. I mean, 50. Yeah, and thank you so much. It means the world to me that you just took that step and decided that, you know what, I want to stay here and I want to hear more of what she has to say. Thank you so much for hanging out with me here from the bottom of my heart. Thank you. I'm so grateful for you. Okay, so today I want to talk about something that I've been itching to talk about for some time. And because it's Valentine's season, today I'm going to share 10 things that I wish I knew about relationships. And if you are in a relationship, or maybe you're preparing, or you're just, you're preparing to get into one, or you just came out of one, you will find this video helpful. The first thing I'll say is that before you deal, make sure you heal. And look, the reason I say this is that a lot of times the relationships that we decide to get into, or the people that we decide to get into relationship with, are a reflection of whether or not we have dealt with whatever trauma that we may have gone through in our lives. So before you jump into a relationship, make sure that you have taken the time to, kickstart your healing journey, that you have taken the time to reflect, introspect, and just really look deeply into maybe how you were raised, or whatever environment you were raised in, and whatever it is that is in you that needs to be pruned or dealt with, right? And the reason I say this is, for example, if you know that you are battling with low self-esteem or a poor sense of self-worth, I really suggest that you take time to deal with that before you decide to jump into a relationship. Because what happens is that if you're battling with low self-esteem, for example, and you go ahead and you go into a relationship, you will go into it expecting someone else to make you feel good about yourself. And because we are dealing with people, we're not dealing with God. Humans are always gonna human. Humans are always going to human, and they will fall short of your expectations. And when that happens, you are going to find yourself like just knee deep in a lot of dysfunction, right? Another thing that happens when you don't heal, or you don't take time to work on yourself and your sense of self before you jump into a relationship, is that you might end up in an unhealthy relationship. You might end up in a toxic relationship, and you may not be able to recognize that toxicity, right? And you may think that that is normal. So take time to work on yourself. The best kind of relationship to have is a healthy one. And a healthy relationship is one where the two people coming into it are established in their sense of self-worth. They feel whole and complete in themselves before they come together, right? So you want to take that time, heal, work on yourself before you jump into a relationship. And that leads me to my next point. Love yourself. Look, you can't give what you don't have. If you don't love yourself, you can't love anyone else. If you don't accept yourself, you'll find it difficult to accept other people. If you don't love yourself, you're going to find yourself in a relationship that you should not be in. Love yourself so that when you're in a relationship that is, for example, maybe emotionally abusive or physically abusive, you love yourself enough to walk away from it. You're able to recognize when this is not serving me, right? This is not, you're able, because you love yourself, you accept yourself, right? Because you see value in yourself, you're able to identify when someone is treating you in a way that is less than what you deserve. So love yourself, learn to love yourself, learn to accept yourself for who you are. And I always try to balance this, because when I talk about loving yourself, I don't mean that, oh, if you have a flaw, if you have a weakness or something that you think, or character traits that you think should be worked on, you just say, people should accept me for who I am. That's not what I'm saying, right? If there's something about you that you think you want to improve on, if there's a character flaw that you want to improve on, then go ahead, get started on improving yourself, get started on becoming a better version of yourself, right? But what I'm saying is that you should love yourself enough before you jump into a relationship. Trust me, if you don't love yourself and if you don't learn to accept yourself, you're going to have a hard time in a relationship. People will take advantage of you. People will use you. And you'll find yourself spiraling in this abyss of dysfunction. You don't want to do that to yourself. So please love yourself. The third thing that I would say about relationships before you decide to get into a relationship is to begin with the end in mind. Let me just sit on this for a minute. Before you decide that you want to jump into a relationship, ask yourself, what do I want to get out of this relationship? And when I say what do I want to get, I don't mean that in terms of using people, right? I mean that, why do you want to get into this relationship? A relationship is not a hobby. It's not something that you get into because you're bored. It's not something that you get into because you just feel like everyone is having a boyfriend or everyone is having a partner, so therefore, right? I'm a firm believer, well, I've learned over the years, that if you get into a relationship with the wrong mindset or wanting to get the wrong thing out of it, that might end up backfiring. Okay? I now believe that before you get into a relationship, the end or the goal in mind should be, we're getting married, right? Or yeah, we're getting married. So if you know that you cannot marry this person, please don't even stress yourself, because that should be the end goal. Do I want to spend the rest of my life with this person? Is this someone that I can spend the rest of my life with? So that should be the goal. That should inform your decision. Because if you decide that you want to just get into a relationship just for the sake of, oh, I'm bored, you're going to end up wasting your time. You're going to end up it's just going to be a waste of time, a waste of emotional energy. You're just going to be spending time on frivolities. You're just wasting your time, right? So begin with the end in mind. Understand what you want to get out of that relationship, which I believe should be marriage. Okay, so yeah, that's the third thing. The fourth thing that I would say you should have at the back of your mind before you get into a relationship is, what are your deal breakers? Look, everyone should be able to sit with themselves and define it. When it comes to a relationship, what is your no-go? Like, when this happens, that's it. And this looks different to different people. I'm not going to come here and tell you what your deal breaker should be, right? You have to decide that for yourself. For some people, it is if the partner cheats on them. For some people, it's emotional abuse. And trust me, abuse of any kind is wrong on every level, right? What I'm trying to say, for some people, it's lies. For some people, it's financial infidelity, right? So whatever that looks like, you define that and be ready to communicate that to your potential partner. Let it be there in the open. Like, let everyone, clear everybody. Like, what I mean by clear everybody is, put it out there, put your cards on the table and say, look, this is my non-negotiable. if you do this, or if you don't do this, if you have this or if you don't have this, this will be the consequence of it. For some people, the non-negotiable is whoever it is that I'm with needs to be a Christian, right? Needs to be a believer in Christ. So you define what that is for you. For some people, it's my non-negotiable. I can't deal with someone who's rude or aggressive, which is good. So you define what your deal breaker is. Know it from the get-go, so that whenever you are having conversations with people that you are considering to be in a relationship with, you're able to see if this person or you can have that conversation with this person, and you can make a healthy decision on whether or not to proceed with that relationship. The next thing that I would say is be willing to walk away from toxicity. Be willing to walk away from relationships that want to end you. And when I say this, what I mean is be willing to walk away from a relationship that tries to erode your sense of self-worth. Be willing to walk away from a toxic relationship. Be willing to walk away from a relationship that constantly tears you down, that constantly tries to erode your sense of identity, right? And you will know when you're in such a relationship. You will know, because you will just feel like you will just know that there is something about this that is abnormal. Like your spirit will just tell you that there's something about this that is not normal. And you must love yourself enough to walk away from it. Now, still speaking on the topic of walking away from toxicity, you must also be willing to tell when you are the one that's being toxic. Because a lot of times it's easy for us to point, the finger at the other person, forgetting that you might be pointing at the speck in someone's eye, but then there's a log in your own eye. So you must be able to also assess yourself to see, am I the toxic person here? Because trust me, a lot of times we are blind to our own faults, and so you have to be able to regularly check check yourself to see, am I the toxic person here? Is there something that I'm doing that is making this other person feel less than themselves, right? So a lot of times, it takes two to tango sometimes, and especially in abusive relationships, you might find that the person is becoming toxic because you yourself are toxic, right? So constantly work on yourself, constantly invest in knowledge, constantly introspect, reflect on your thoughts, reflect on your actions, so that you also can create a healthy environment, right? But then if having looked at yourself, you see that that this abuse or this toxicity isn't coming from you, then you must be willing to walk away from such a situation. A relationship should add to your joy and your peace. It should, and your happiness. It's not always perfect, but it should not be something that always makes you weep. Why? Trust me, I don't know, because I know that there are people in the world who think that relationships should always be hard and tough, that you should always be crying. Like, if you're not crying or if you're not fighting every Eke market day, trust me, there are people, and I used to be one of them, who believe that if there is no violence, like if there is no crying or fighting or arguing every day, then that's not true love. That's wrong. That's a pattern that that has been projected or injected into the world, but it's not true. It's not healthy. It is possible to go 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 1 month without arguing, without quarreling. If this sounds shocking to you, then maybe you have to go and sit and assess. Trust me, a healthy relationship is possible. And when I say healthy, I don't mean that it is free of, it's free of quarrels, or there will be no arguments. No, that's not what I'm saying, because you're dealing with a human being and you're also human. No one is perfect, right? What I'm saying is that a healthy relationship is one that even if there are issues, even if there may be conflict, you still feel at peace. You still, like, the conflict is handled in a way that shows deep love, deep respect, right? So, and that leads me to my next point. Be willing to invest in knowledge. Go out of your way and read up, learn about healthy relationships. Learn about, building your sense of self and working on yourself so that you can also create a healthy environment in your relationships. Like, if you're always on social media, bad news sells. Trust me, bad news sells. So if you're always on social media and you are weighing relationships based on, or your view or your perspective of relationships is based on all the failed relationships, failed marriages, and people that have hot takes about the fact that men are scum, women are liars, blah blah blah. If that's all you constantly feed yourself, you find it hard to have a healthy relationship. So go out of your way and seek out material that talk about healthy relationships. Like, go out of your way and find people who are actually having relationships that are thriving. People who are actually happy in their relationships. Learn about becoming a better version of yourself, preparing yourself to be someone that adds value to another person's life, right? So go out of your way, invest in knowledge, invest in yourself so that you can be a better person. And that leads me to my next point. Become your list. Become your spec. Look, a lot of people have their spec. A lot of people have their list. And it's very easy to say, oh, I want my potential partner to be this. I want this person to be kind. I want this person to not be, to always be gentle, calm, to be a good communicator, to be willing to communicate during conflict, blah, 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 blah. It's very easy. But what about you? Which one are you going to be? Because trust me, your spec also has a spec goal. So, are you your spec? Because as you're writing your list, as your sister, he's writing his own list too, right? So if you're looking for someone who is kind and gentle and someone who is, family oriented, someone who will welcome you and your family, someone who's forgiving, make sure you go and learn how to become that person. If you're looking for someone who's respectful and you're rude, no. Make sure that you're also releasing the energy that you are wanting to get back, right? So you go and work on yourself so that you have the rights to demand what you're looking for. You can't be looking for someone who is kind and you are not kind. That's not fair. It's not fair. You can't be looking for someone who is hardworking and you are lazy. Yeah, whatever it is that you're looking for in your spec, go and become it. Because your spec also has a spec. What I'm trying to say in essence is that also turn the mirror to yourself. Turn the mirror to yourself. It's not all about, and I know that, and I say this because as a woman, that there tends to be this, belief that you are the prize, which is true, you are the prize. Yes, you want the prize. But it doesn't mean that you also don't get to work on yourself. No, it doesn't exempt you from needing to work on yourself. You also have to work on yourself. Okay? Even your spec has a spec. Become your list. And that leads me to my next point. When people show you who they are, believe them. Maya Angelou said this, and it's so true. Look, people will always show you who they are. There's a proverb, an African proverb that says, character is like smoke. You can't hide it. You can't hide it. So when people show you who they are, believe them. When someone is kind to you, but is rude to the waiter, rude to the gate man. My sister, that person is not a kind person. Trust me. The fact that someone is only kind, you're the only person in this world that person is kind to. But every other person, the person beats everyone, is always aggressive to people, constantly hurl insults at people at the slightest provocation. But when it comes to you, you are the egg. A time will come when it will be your turn. You will collect, and yours will be worse. It will be a lot worse because this person has showed you who they are. So when people show you who they are, believe them. But make that decision and just decide what you're going to do. But don't make excuses. Don't try to make excuses. Don't try to dismiss it. It'll be to your detriment at the end. Trust me. When people show you who they are, believe them. Okay? And that leads me to my next point. Don't define yourself by a relationship. Look, your love life, your relationship, your romantic relationship is only a part of who you are. It is not the center of who you are. It is not your life. It is a part of your life, maybe a very important part of your life, but it is not your entire life. And the reason I say this is because a lot of times we make this mistake of making a relationship the center of our world. We forget about our goals, we forget about our dreams, we no longer have hobbies, we no longer have friends. We just take this relationship as the be all and end all of our lives. But it's not. Besides that relationship is you. Like, you are the center. Like, you are the person. Like, you have other parts to you. You have your work life. You have, other people that can make your life, that can enrich your life, that can make your life beautiful. You have your family, you have your friends, right? Don't forget all of those other important aspects of your life, focusing on just that relationship. No, it's not a healthy way to do things. That relationship should not be your core. Don't forget yourself because of a relationship. As much as you pour into it, which is good, you should pour into it. As much as you pour into it, pour into the other ones too. Make time for the other ones too. Make time for the things that give you joy. And I say this all the time because even as someone who's married right now, I try to remind myself every now and then that the marriage was created for me. I was not created for the marriage. So there are other things that I need to do. There are other parts of my life that I also need to nurture and cultivate, right? And they are also, even if they're not as important as the marriage, they are equally important. Like, they're also important, right? So my partner is not the center of my life. He's not the core of my being. Christ is, right? And so at the end of the day, there are also other things that I must do with my life, right? There are also other things. I must do the things that also give me joy. I must also pour into the lives of others, my friends, my family, So don't define yourself by a relationship. Don't do that. There is more to you than your relationship. So don't forget that. Okay? And finally, my final point is you can't change people. Look, let me tell you, you can't change people. People only change when their desire to change becomes greater than their desire to remain the same. You can encourage people to change. You can, talk to them about changing, but you can't actually make them change until they decide to change. So if you're seeing signs in someone and you're not sure if that is something that you can deal with, then maybe you really need to sit and assess, because people hardly change. So ask yourself, if this person doesn't change, can I deal with it? So if you're seeing things in someone, maybe the person is aggressive, constantly rude, unkind, right? Or, constantly disrespectful. Ask yourself, what if this person doesn't change? Is this something I can deal with for the rest of my life? It's a good question to ask because people hardly change. You must be willing to deal with that. So you must be able to say, okay, if this person continues this forever and ever, can I deal with it? Because people hardly change. And you can't change anyone. You can't. Look, think of yourself as an adult, right? There are so many things that you have been doing since you were born. Like there might be some things in your life that you have like, oh, I need to change. Maybe you're always going to places late. Everyone knows you as the late comer. And you've been trying to change that. How hard has that been? Exactly. Right. So if you think about it, even for you, there's so many things that you probably would like to change, but it's just been difficult. I know that for me. Oh my God. Procrastination. Hey, Jesus. I've been trying to change this procrastination, but it's been hard. I'm getting better. But, and because once you become an adult, you become kind of set in your ways. It's hard to change it. So just imagine the other person too. It's hard. Change is hard. Change is hard, right? And until when and there are people that they don't see, the things that you see as an issue, right? So until when that person recognizes the need to change, until that person says that, oh, this is my bad character, I must change it. First of all, that person needs to even know that that's a bad character. Because if the person doesn't think that there's anything wrong with what they're doing or what they're saying or how they're living, there's no need to change. There's nothing to propel them. There's nothing to prompt them to change. Right? So think about it, because trust me, even God himself, like even with the fact that Jesus came to this earth, died, rose again, and he's offering people salvation, people are still like, I don't want your salvation, take it. So if the Holy Spirit, if Jesus himself that died, people are finding it hard to accept that, how much more you that you're just a human being, sister? Look, people hardly change, so think about it, okay? All right, so that's all I wanted to share with you today. I hope you found this insightful. So let me know in the comments, what are the things that you have learned or you are learning about relationships. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. If you know someone that you think needs to watch this video, do well to share this with them. Did you know we have a podcast? This is actually a podcast. So if you go on any podcast platform, you'll find this on there. I typically upload an episode a few days or a week after the video goes live. So you'll be able to find this on any podcast platform that you like to listen to. Okay, so thank you so much for watching if you're watching this, and thank you so much for listening if you're listening to this. And if you're watching this on YouTube and you haven't subscribed, please have mercy on me. Yeah, do well to subscribe so that you are notified whenever I have a new video up. Okay, on this space, I like to share wholesome content and content that is inspiring, that pushes you to become a better version of yourself. All right, thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for listening, and I'll see you again in my next episode. Bye.